About that. All right. In addition, I want to say so sorry that the pizza isn't here ahead of the meeting. We had some staff who are out of office today who usually handle the pizza order side of this evening, and it seems like some things may have fallen through the cracks. So we're working to get that resolved as quick as possible to see if we can get some in the back of the room before the end of the meeting. But please just sort of like stay with us on that. All right, and so the first item on our agenda here that we will go to is approval of the minutes. Do I see a vote to approve the minute? Or a motion rather, Abdullah? All right, and then do I see a second? I see a second from Farzad. All right, is there anyone who objects to moving towards a vote on the approval of the minutes? All right, seeing none, we will go ahead and get that posted in the Students Assembly channel. And Nathaniel, if you can go ahead and get that done, do you approve the cycle 5 minutes? Teens loading there. And reminder that this will be the first attendance vote for the night. All right, that vote is now up in the Students Assembly channel. Vote yes if you approve the minutes, vote no if you believe that some things need to be considered, and abstain to stay out of the discussion. Our quorum is 29 for tonight, so as soon as we surpass that number, we should be on the good side of this. All right. Is there anyone who has the ability to vote on this matter that has not yet done so or is still considering the motion? All right, just saw a vote roll in, so I'll go ahead and keep this open for about 15 more seconds. All right, final call for this vote. Anyone who has not yet been able to do so? Seeing no objections, I'll move to close this vote. And with a vote of 34 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and 0 abstentions, this motion clearly passes. All right, and so now we'll go ahead and advance on to the next item on our agenda, which is our guest speaker. So for our guest speaker tonight, we have someone very important here in Lawrence, Representative Christina Haswood, who represents Lawrence in the Kansas House of Representatives for District 10. We're very grateful that Christina has taken the time out of her day to come speak to us today. And without further ado, I'd like to welcome Christina Haswood to the podium. Yes. And then I'll start your timer for 20 minutes, but if you need a time extension, we'll be able to accommodate that.
You're ready for the legislature. Hello, my name is Christina Haswood, our Representative Christina Haswood. I am starting my second term. I started my higher education journey at Haskell Nations University. I graduated Lawrence High School 2012. Oh my God, it's like 10 years. Ugh. like they contacted me for a 10-year reunion. I was like, I don't want to like face that right now. But then I got to Haskell, got my Associates of Science in Community Health, and then went to Arizona State University, got my Bachelor's of Science in Public Health, and then I came back home to go to University of Kansas Medical Center, where I got my master's in public health. All that took about 8 years because I kept failing anatomy and physiology. I don't know if anyone is like pre-med or in the health track, but oh my goodness, I was like, do not trust me with your life. Like, I will be on the administrative side of things and research. So that is how my higher education journey has become. When I was at Haskell, I don't know, in high school, I was very shy. And when I got to college, I was like, I'm not going to be that girl anymore. I'm going to break out of my shell and be the person I always wanted to be. And so I ran for my dorm president, and just start off by saying hello to everybody in the halls. The dorm I stayed in had a communal shower and bathroom area. So we were always just bound to like run into each other in the hallways, and ended up winning dorm president. And then later at Haskell, I was a sophomore representative with our student government, and then really carry that over to Arizona State University, where I helped co-found our first public health student organization club on the downtown campus at ASU. So I've kind of been in your shoes a little bit, not quite the big student senate, but I just want to thank you everyone for stepping up and doing this volunteer work. It's hard work. And definitely, I think you all are qualified to run for state legislature. You just have to be 18. So yeah, I serve on the committees of Federal and State Affairs, Health and Human Services, Agriculture, and I'm the ranking minority on our state and federal tribal relations. I'm also currently serving, since we're out of session, on the special committee, interim committee of medical marijuana, which is a really exciting topic here for Kansas, especially with Missouri passing the recreational on the ballot. Really hope that Kansas was in that direction, but we're just currently not quite there. But it's very hopeful. We had 2 meetings on that, and currently the 3rd meeting got postponed. But we do think that a lot of the time is taken in a good step of right direction. Whether it gets passed in the legislature, we really don't know yet because of the politics shifts that happen on November 8th. So I don't really have a structure to my presentation today, so please start right now of thinking some questions. A couple of things, I'm not a freshman legislator anymore, but a couple of things that I'm pretty much known for is being Native American. So I'm from the Navajo Nation, but born and raised here in Lawrence, Kansas. So that makes me an urban Indigenous young woman. And a lot of the policies that I have co-sponsored and one of the bills I passed were an Indigenous bill. And one of that was HB 2008, which was the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Peoples bill. And missing and murdered Indigenous peoples, women and girls, is an epidemic in the Indigenous community, not only in the United States, but in our First Nation folks in Canada. And to have Kansas come into this and create policy, it's Kansas's first step into this epidemic. And it was really great that last election cycle in 2020, when I first came in, we also got Representative Stephanie Byers, who's the first trans and Native American Indigenous elected official, I like to say, in the world, but here in the United States that we know of. And we also had Representative Dr. Pankwi Vickers-Kozad, who was the first female to Native American to be in the state legislature. So with the 3 of us coming in, we were able to get some hearings on some bills that haven't previously, such as trying to change Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day. Unfortunately, that died in committee, but we got Missing and Murdered Indigenous Peoples bills passed. We got several bills of giving land back to tribal nations who have historical ties to Kansas, and a lot of that was sacred ceremonial sites. So it was really great to see, it was just Pankwi, and then 2 of us came in that had that influence. But unfortunately, Pankwi retired, and Representative Byers did not seek re-election due to family reasons. So it's just going to be me. So it's been a great 2 years, and I think we really established a good footing. Me being a freshman legislator, I feel really proud of the work I've done to work across the aisle. My political spectrum is more on the left progressive side of things, but getting a bill passed like Missing and Murdered Indigenous Peoples bill, we got that passed unanimously on the House and Senate side, and it's arguably that the Senate is a lot more conservative. So I'm really proud to work across the aisle for an issue that we could all see was as important. And, I'm happy to take and carry those skills on to a lot bigger issues that I see in my committee. Federal and state affairs is what I like to describe as a dumpster fire of all cool things. So we deal with like alcohol, abortion, guns, cannabis, marijuana, really exciting pieces of legislation that are very, very polarizing. It's a big committee, but it's also just a testimony to the task of working bipartisanly. So I'm always happy to have conversations with folks with different ideologies and different experiences. And one of the coolest things about my job is that I get to work with folks that live 4 hours west of us, and just to see where they come and have been raised from, the values. I believe that all issues that we deal with, we all see as issues, but we all think there's a different path to that solution. And trying to meet in the middle a lot of times is something I'm trying to learn as a freshman. I don't know if any of y'all relate, being in student government where you run on a platform of issues that we really need to push, and the other side does as well. But at the end of the day, you need to meet in the middle, you need to work together, and you need to compromise. Compromise is a big thing that I'm currently learning, and learning every day. So yeah, that is a little bit of what I do. Some of the things I'm famous for is TikToking. So I do have a TikTok, which is at Haswood, HASWOOD. FORKS. And in that TikTok, it started off as a joke in my campaign in 2020. But it actually took off when at the time, young Dim high schooler from Concordia, Kansas, Connor Thrash, helped me with my TikTok game. And we got a couple viral TikToks going. And I pretty much picked it up after that. Had a couple of videos go viral, and a lot of the content that goes viral is me being Indigenous in a political space, which historically was trying to kill us. So trying to bring that together into modern times, but also encourage a lot of folks from a minority community who have faced that similar oppression, that we do belong in these spaces and that our voices equally matter and deserve to be at the table. Other cool opportunities I've just actually got in from a flight a couple hours ago from DC, where we were at a reception at the White House for Native American Heritage Month with First Lady Jill Biden. So it's really great to see at the top of the political chain, our culture being celebrated. And it was just a really cool event. I've gone to places like Germany to represent the United States, but also the state of Kansas, because we are a big agriculture state. Beef is one of our biggest exports that goes internationally. And I feel like we don't really talk about international relations as a state. And I think that's a lot of missed opportunity and potential. So it's an area that I'm starting to tap into. There's probably a lot of areas that you all wish that the legislator would tap into. Probably stuff like, making sure that you don't raise your tuition. And I know I'm pretty in tune with the Indigenous community here, but reparations of the unjust fighting our ancestors on this land. And I know sexual abuse and violence is prevalent in all college campuses, and no different to our college campuses as well. So it's really great to have these conversations with folks who have a position of power in these different types of issues, from our local government to our district attorney, all the way to the state house, trying to work together on all these different issues, especially with KU being its different entity. It's always unique to hear solutions on how to address these types of issues. So yeah, do I have any questions so far?
All right. Do we have any questions for Representative Haswood? I see one back here from Angela. Could we get a mic or a catch box? Looks like we got a mic. Perfect. And just for like time wise, we have about 10 minutes for questions now. So yeah, keeping that in mind.
Cool. So thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. So oftentimes an obstacle to like young people getting involved with the legislature or like running for office is that is almost exclusively runs in the spring and you get paid very, very little. So how do you balance that as a young person, like starting your career and also being in the legislature?
Thank you for that question. So it definitely is a job that is not created for folks at this stage of life. I believe for working class folks, for folks who might be single parents or grandparents, it's a job that's not easily accessible. It does not come with a huge income too, right? So I have a master's degree, and according to Glassdoor, I should be making like $70,000. But in the legislature, I make about like 15,000. So with that, there's been I think I also want to touch on the disparity of the age gap in the legislature. So a lot of my colleagues are retired and they have lived longer lives than I have. There's been some folks in the legislature who have been in there before I was born. So it's really interesting to see those types of how they sustain themselves as well. A lot of folks, are living off that retirement money and that life savings money. We have a lot of folks who have their own law firms, consulting firms, business owners. We have folks who work for their parents' businesses, and folks who this past election cycle may have worked on a political campaign as well, because at the state level, you pretty much have to run your own campaign with very little resources. So it really depends. We have folks who are teachers, folks who are farmers and ranchers and producers. So there's no really, well, there is, you have to fill out a conflict of interest form. And we've seen this actually with Representative Brandon Woodard when he used to work at the endowment. Anytime there was a bill that would impact the endowment, he would have to take a present vote. So that's kind of how you deal with some of those types of issues. But then it runs into the issue of, well, doesn't every job kind of deal with what bill you're working on? And I think that's one of the flaws of maybe being a citizens legislator is what Kansas is. It's a part-time job. But I feel like the people expect us to work 24/7. And it is quite different. We don't have staff right now. Our sessions go from January to May with a break in April. I had one office assistant for 4 legislators, and she ended up quitting about 3/4 way into the session. So we try to frantically figure out how to check our phone voicemails. But it's been with trial and error. So when I first ran for office, I was still finishing up my GRA at KU Med. When I was running my campaign, I definitely did not work. Thank goodness they still paid me. And they're like, all right, thank you. And I ended up winning office. And then I got a job here at KU as Douglas County COVID call center manager. And we were actually in the St. Andrews building running the little COVID call center. I don't know if anyone got COVID and called that hotline number. You probably got me at the other end of it, or some of my colleagues. And I actually did that full time until the legislative session started. Then I worked on the weekends to try and just, keep up with bills, because I knew once April hit, I wasn't going to get an income. In the legislative session, we work on a per diem. I really don't know what that means, but I know it means that every time we're in session that is approved, that is when we get paid. And in these interim committees are days that I get paid to work. And they're about $88, $89 a day per hour. So, but right now, I am currently working as a fellow with Women's Democracy Lab, and I have been partnered with a nonprofit organization or an organization on the nonprofit side. So I'm purely C3, and I'm currently working on the recruitment for Native American folks who want to run for office. I'm also working on a TikTok grant. So it's really cool to see how something like TikTok was just for funsies, and it actually is bringing in a job opportunity and income for me. And it's also has identified for me as being on the business side of TikTok, trying to hire creators, working with creators, approving content while working with a nonprofit organization, and the bureaucracy of that has shown that there is an area that is lacking in Indigenous creations. So that's probably something I'd like to explore, but in the future, I would like to create my own consulting firm, my LLC. Other legislators have done this in other states. I'm not too sure about Kansas laws, but a lot of times we get tapped to do speaking engagements. And by Kansas state law, we can only accept $200 of honorarium. And there's a lot of laws of what we can and cannot accept. So I would recommend, if you're thinking of running for office, know what seat you want to run for and what it entails. Running a campaign is quite difficult. I had a campaign manager and I had a campaign coordinator. And then this past summer, I had 5 interns. One of them that was working for field, one of them was working for fundraising and finance. So I could not have doubled my staff the first time I ran my campaign. No one even knew who I was. People would call me the nobody in the race. So it's been really amazing to see the growth of my campaign. But I also treat it like a small business because I want to pay my staff, my interns, my folks who work for me. So I would suggest that if you want to run for office, come and talk to me. Even though if we're not on the same political party, I'm happy to connect you maybe with another party, because I think we need more young folks in office. I'm really tired of folks trying to deal with issues that impact your everyday life. And no offense, but they're like 60 and saying when I was in high school, it was like this, and they haven't been in high school for like 40 years. So I think a lot of these issues, your voices really matter in what the future is, because you're going to inherit all the good and bad policies that are going to be going on in the state house. And what we're seeing at the federal level with our SCOTUS, a lot of it's coming down to local control. And, we don't really know what's going to be happening in the next year. So I think getting involved in state level politics is definitely a great way to do while you're still in school. If you have any questions on bills, testimonies, I'm always happy to sit down, write you an email, text you, DM me on Instagram, and get politically more involved.
All right, thank you for that. And do we have any other questions in the room here? All right, question from Turner. And then did I see a question over here? Perfect question over here from Anna Sophia. All right. And Turner, you can go ahead.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for being out here.
Did you also have a question?
My question is, what advice do you have with dealing with bureaucracy?
That is a good question. I think a lot of times we're too quick to make a policy to address an issue. So I was at this training thing this summer, and they said, a lot of times you see a fence that's in your way, and a lot of times you just want to break through that fence, but you want to take a step back to know why was that fence built in the first place. And I think once you know what that fence was built for and what issues that they ran into, you can address the root cause of it, because I feel like, especially in politics, we're trying to go through walls and create solutions, but at the same time, we're creating unintentional consequences through the policies that we're passing, and we're going to have to constantly go back and fix it with we call trailer bills in the legislature, when it's like one main bill and you're like, oh crap, we forgot about this, so we got to create a trailer bill for it, and it gets all complicated. So I think thinking critically like that through that type of issues, but also understanding who has power in the system of the issue. So for example, one of the things that I'm trying to figure out is the housing crisis. And I know this is a very important issue to you all. I still live in an apartment because I can't afford a house. And also I sit on the board of our homeless shelter. So I'm trying to figure out, okay, how can I afford a house? How can folks who are experiencing homelessness afford a house, so we can get them into housing instead of having these temporary camps on the side of the river? And who has a power in this? Who has the funding, right? So that's probably another thing, is follow the money. Who is approving this budget? What type of grant? Is it a federal grant? Who's signing off on these things? Because sometimes you might be, and unfortunately I get this a lot, and it's not anyone's fault, but they're asking me like, how the Representative Haswood, the gas prices are too high. I'm like, I don't control the gas prices. So trying to figure out where in these issues they're coming from, I think can better address the issue of bureaucracy. And also with elected positions, if someone's not doing their job, find someone to run. replace them. And that's the power to the people, and that's the democracy that we have, is to have that choice to do the job better. Another example is Representative Brandon Woodard. One of his things is that he came into office because his legislator was not even answering his emails. And that's one of the bare bones of what we do as state representatives, is to answer our emails and answer our phones.
Do I see a motion to extend time? I saw one from Angela for 10 minutes. Do I see a second from Abdullah? Perfect. Anyone who is opposed to a time extension of 10 minutes? Going once, going twice? All right, seeing none, time is extended by 10 minutes. Did you need to finish that question or?
Oh, that's it.
Perfect. All right, then we go to our next speaker here. And were there any other questions on the floor before I get back into it? All right, seeing none, you may go ahead.
Hi, thank you so much for coming tonight as well. I was wondering what the experience is being like more progressive legislator in the Kansas legislature is like, and what's like the biggest issue that the Kansas legislature faces now?
That's a really good question. So I guess I fall on a more extreme side of political ideology, but I want to be conscious of my colleagues who might fall on the opposite spectrum. I have made really great friends with folks. I'm pro-choice and someone who literally wrote a bill last semester to criminalize abortion. And you'll see us in the back of the chamber, like grabbing water. How was your weekend? Oh, how's the trailer? How's the wife and kids? So I think when working in these spaces that are very toxic, that we do try to keep a level of professionalism and try not to push buttons too far. I know, unfortunately, that has happened where, you don't want to attack like someone's family or someone's partner. But then again, it's politics, right? Everything's pretty much fair game. So I think trying to find that level of understanding with folks who might not see the same values you politically. And I know it's really, really hard with issues when we talk about immigration, because this is literally people's families. This is literally breaking families apart. So with that, I think as a state representative, it's my duty to not burn too many bridges, but to also try and connect with folks at that personal level of, how are the kids doing? How are the grandkids doing? And then, being a progressive legislator with my political values are not the majority in the legislature at all. So if you see, Google my name on the Kansas legislative website and see all the bills that I have co-sponsored or sponsored, like a lot of them just died in committee and never got a hearing. Things like raising minimum wage up to $15 an hour, recreational cannabis, all those went nowhere. So those who controls that, the chairperson of those committees, and ultimately the Speaker of the House, who is the opposite party of me. And so it's frustrating because these are issues that the constituents of Kansas House District 10 agree with and elected me into office to push these issues forward, but at the same time, they're going nowhere. But a lot of times we actually did get some media coverage. So I see that as some type of progress, that we're opening the conversation for Kansas to these issues, without like Missouri and Colorado getting all the credit for a lot of these things. So yeah, and I forgot your second question.
What's the biggest issue that's
I would say the bureaucracy as well. Just how few people can have so much power in the legislature and try to make a lot of decisions. As I said before, in committee, the chairperson of the committee literally has the power to give a bill a hearing or not, or to move it forward. And then again, the president of the Senate and the Speaker of the House, they literally sign off on where I park at the Capitol. They sign off on where my desk is, where my office is. And if that's not saying how much power that these people have, I think it's crazy. But also, it's really frustrating to see issues like special education just get nowhere. And I have to go back to my to my home, to my district, you know, here in USD 497, we had a budget crisis, and we hear our governor saying, I fully funded public schools, but yet we had like 4 or 5 schools, a lot were in my district on the chopping block here at a local issue. So I'm like, all right, like the math ain't mathin', like where's the connection and how can I best do my job? In Topeka, I don't have a public education background, so I'm not on these committees. So how in my capacity can I best bring that influence and that voice to the legislature? I think there's so many issues that we don't touch. And you know, there's so much time in the day, and being a part-time legislator that we only meet from January to May, about a month and a half of the session is where we really introduce bills, get committee hearings and the public input. And by then, right, y'all are just starting school, trying to figure out like, you know, where your classes are and stuff. And then February, March hits, and we're already starting to pass bills on one chamber to the other chamber. And I can see how that's a big issue for the college population, where there's not really a good time to get that civic engagement at the state level. I will give an example. I'm on this work group, and we're trying to figure out with higher education tuition, and they want to pass a bill in the legislature with 1 year of this reduced tuition bill idea. I was like, okay, if it gets passed, a lot of the bills that we pass don't get signed until June 1st. And already you're like applying for scholarships back in April. Like you already missed the boat. Half of the people who might want to take advantage of this, they're already accepting letters in different states that have maybe full ride scholarships. I had an intern who was from Lawrence, went to Harvard, really wanted to go to KU, but Harvard gave her a full ride scholarship. So it's like, how do we get these timelines more adequate? And I'm really pushing for at least 2 years, really pushing for like 10 years of this improvement, but I really don't know the political spectrum of how feasible that is.
All right, any other questions? Oh, question over here.
Perfect. Okay, so my question is, obviously, Governor Laura Kelly was reelected for her second term, but you still have the conservative supermajority in both chambers. So what is kind of like the compromise legislation that you guys are working on together? Some kind of like agreement points and legislation that you guys are going to be working on this next session?
So I want to give a little background, like, right, so we had November 8th and the House folks, we're up for re-election, all 125 of us. So in the Democrat side, we have 12 new people out of 40. So we're still in the minority, and the Republicans still have a supermajority in the House and Senate. Senate does not have their re-elections. They had one special election, but all 40 of them don't have it until 2 years in 2024 with their new boundaries. And we just ran on our new boundaries after redistricting. So we're currently in this awkward phase where we don't know if we'll have the same committees. So we're actually doing leadership elections on December 5th. At the Capitol. So both Democrats and Republicans go to the Capitol and we meet in our own caucuses. This is usually a closed door, and we're going to be voting on who we want to be our leaders. So we're looking on the Democrat sides, like House Minority Leader, Assistant Minority Leader, Caucus Chair, Whip, Agenda Chair, and Policy Chair. We'll see what that type of leadership brings. Currently, I'm running for policy chair in my caucus, and you know, it's not really like the top tier position, but folks who have put their name in the hat for a top tier position, it's either like, should we keep the people that we had last time that they did an okay job, or should we just, you know, have this person who has the energy and passion to bring a different tone to the legislator in these compromises. A lot of the compromises happen in a period called Conference Committee Week, which is usually in May when we're on a bill. I don't know if anyone knows much about conference committees. Sadie does, because of your mom. But that is where compromises really happen. And a lot of that is left up to the chairperson of that committee. In a conference committee, it's usually made up of the chairperson, their vice chairperson on the Republican side because they have the majority, and then our ranking minority on the Democratic side. And then if it's with the Senate members, the same structure as well. So they do a lot of that compromise. But there's a lot of talk with our leadership and making sure that, is this a deal that we want to take? And do we want to give other opinions from local nonprofits and whatnot? And is this in line with the governor? Right, as a Democrat, we want to keep a strong policy agenda from the top down. So a lot of it is left up to our chairperson, and we put a lot of faith in that people, and those chair people are picked from the majority and minority leaders. So that is how we compromise in the legislature. And bigger things, a lot of it is done by our leadership. But of course, as someone who is not in leadership, I have the power to go to my minority leader. And I've gone several times to the Speaker of the House and to his office and sat down and gave my spiel.
All right. Do we have any more questions in the room? Or no? I think that would be good. Well, thank you very much, Christina, for coming to speak to us. It's been really great. All right. And with that, we will move on to the next item on our agenda, which is an officer report from our student body president, Sadie Williams. As we sort of see our guest speaker out here, I assume.
Okay, I can go ahead and get started. First of all, thank you all for coming. I hope that you have a good week leading up to Thanksgiving break next week. Hopefully that's full of a lot of rest for you all and or prep for finals and final projects. The main thing that I have to talk to you all about is both Danae and I journeyed up to Manhattan or over to Manhattan today for a Board of Regents meeting there. We were able to start planning for the State Higher Education Day, which will be in the spring, which is basically when Student Senate leadership pops over to Topeka and advocates for issues that are near and dear to all of our hearts. And so that's something that we'll be talking with you all about as we get closer to make sure that we're also adequately representing y'all's input in addition to what we see as issues in Senate as exec and as students at this university. I've also been team working with Turner and Camden to help start prepping for fee and everything like that. And so Turner and I have been navigating some pre-fee meetings with fee managers just to kind of see where they're at with this current year's allocations and offering support where we can in that regards, and just kind of following up on those ways. There's a fee manager meeting tomorrow at 4 where we're going to kind of sit there and then they're going to tell us everything they love, hate, and are neutral about with fee. So that way we can have that cohesive feedback as we go into Camden goes into the final stages of planning for fee review this upcoming spring. And then additionally, the last thing that I have to touch on that I think is pertinent to you all is there's going to be a bill coming up that is co-authored by both Camden and I later on today that's regarding fee and some changes within that committee and then the way that it operates within this space and councils. So yeah. Fun things.
All right. Thank you for that, Sadie. Do we have any questions for our student body president? All right, seeing none. Thank you very much, Sadie.
Anytime.
All right, and now we'll go on to the next item on our agenda, which would be my officer report. Sam, if you could take the chair. Good to go. Perfect. All right, so for my officer report tonight, the legislative tracker has been updated with all finalized legislation from past cycles. All business is going to be finalized in each consecutive cycle moving forward as we get through the remainder of this semester. The legislative deadline has actually been extended due to Thanksgiving break. So as you can see here on our legislative calendar, instead of being this Friday, it's instead going to be moved up to the 25th of November, 2022, next Friday at 5 p.m. So if you have any legislation that you'd like to submit to pass before the end of this semester here, please make sure you get it in before then. If you need assistance in finding ideas to pursue in Senate or writing legislation, make sure to email me. I and other exec staff are more than willing to assist you with writing legislation as need comes. For University Senate and Senex updates, our University Senate meeting on the 3rd of November had Lauren McCone, the Associate Vice Chancellor for Civil Rights and Title IX, as a guest speaker. And she spoke to some of the changes that could be coming next year related to Title IX. The Department of Ed has released new proposed regulations for Title IX some time ago for public comment. And when this is processed, KU will then see some shifts in sort of how civil rights and Title IX is going to be utilized by members of the university community. To review some of these proposed changes, make sure to go to the link on the Department of Ed website. It literally is titled like Release Proposed Changes to Title IX Regs if you would like to peruse that at your leisure. The University Senate and Senex has also been reviewing a new amendment. Could I maybe get another minute and a half?
Yeah, could I get a minute and a half for speaker time? Camden, second by Christopher, right? Any opposition? None? Great.
Brilliant. All right, there's also been a new amendment in University Senate as to what qualifies as a university excused absence under the USRR. Additionally, this sort of provides a process in which KU students would be able to instead email student support and case management to provide documentation related to a verifiable absence instead of to a professor, sort of in lieu of handing this documentation over the professor. So it allows like a new process once that amendment gets passed through University Senate. That'll go up to a vote at our next meeting there. Sadie, Holly, and I had our first shared governance meeting this week with people brought together from across KU. We're getting started with phase 1, which involves developing a joint vision of what shared governance means for KU after this global pandemic and how that's shifted with how we receive and interact with higher ed. So we'll hopefully have that process bring results as we continue the phase 1 over the next few months. And then finally, office staff is making good progress on our platforms as we approach the end of the semester here. And we hope to provide some really good updates as we get to our last meeting here in December. And that would be it for me. Are there any questions? All right, brilliant. Thank you. The next item on our agenda here is our graduate student body president. Oh, Sadie, do you have something to announce?
Pizza,
Oh.
you're aware it's not here. It should be here in like 10. So just so you're all aware, there will be pizza, there will be food. So if you're hungry, it is en route. Just a little delayed. We like to keep you on your toes.
That is amazing news. All right, now we will go to our officer report from our grad student body president, Holly Hall.
Okay, so the Graduate Student Advisory Board met with the provost last week and we discussed issues pertaining to the student health insurance. It's gone up kind of a lot, the required health insurance that international students and graduate students opt into. Since 2019, it's gone from like $750 a semester to now it's like $1,105. And so it's becoming really unaffordable. And so looking at ways we can advocate, especially with the Kansas Board of Regents, to kind of like have a more equitable premium for the health insurance whilst retaining the same coverage. And we also discussed the meet and greet that we held in here on the 3rd of November. For graduate students, it was a really big success. We had about 50 students show up. And so we're preparing a wine social in the spring for graduate students. That'll be pretty fun. As Alessia mentioned, we attended the kickoff for shared governance meeting with the provost yesterday. And we are going to meet again early next semester, and they will be holding focus groups in regards to share governance. So we will let you know when we get that information, so you all can sign up if you'd like to attend. And there should be free food for that too. And then on Friday, we are going to meet with the Chancellor, Ms. Sadie and Alessia. So if you have anything that you'd like us to put on that agenda before we send it out tomorrow, let one of us know so that we can do that. That's everything.
All right, thank you very much, Holly. Do we have any questions for Holly? All right, seeing none, thank you very much. All right, next we have our Chief of Staff, Sam Sokolov. And I went ahead and put the new constitution up there so that you can like show it when you do your officer report.
Amend the agenda so I can add people right now. Add new senators.
You want to add them right now or after officer reports?
All
Or,
right, let's just do it. I'm gonna
or
go there.
oh, you can just go ahead and do it now, yeah.
Okay.
All right, so Sam has motion to amend the agenda to move the confirmation of replacement senators to right after his officer report. Do I see a second for that motion? I see a second from Abdullah. Is there anyone who objects to moving that confirmation to under Sam's officer report? All right, seeing none, this motion clearly passes.
Hello, so Constitution is finally done. It's updated up all the way through cycle 4, and then after tonight, I'm gonna update it all the way through the current cycle, just in anticipation of a couple bills. I edited as well, so now you have access and you go on there and you click and it says, please click here. It'll also have like headings and stuff, so you can click on each title, so you don't have to scroll all the way down through the document and be like, oh God, and then, go through like 89 pages of nonsense. So yep, it's done, mostly updated, and it'll be completely updated after this assembly. And then also I have replacement senators. I've been doing checkups. Everything's going well there. But yeah, that was just my big project. So it's finally done. Okay. So now I can move on.
Questions related to the officer report portion of this? All right, seeing none, you can go ahead.
Cool. Okay. So, do we have Luke Lechtenberg? He's here. Cool. Okay. You are for College of Art and Design, correct? Awesome. Omar Vasilevsky. Is Omar here? Nope. Okay. Robert Epler. Robert, residence halls. Cool. Okay. And then Benjamin Cooper. Cool. Off campus. Hattie Morgan. Okay. And then Simra Javed.
Back
Okay.
here.
So go for off campus as well, I think. Okay. Could I get a motion to acclimate them as replacement?
I see a motion from Holly. Do I see a second? I see a second from Kevin. All right, and do we have anyone who objects to the acclamation of these senators? Seeing none, acclamation is complete. Welcome to the Senate. All right, and are all of our new senators already on Teams? Is there anyone who doesn't have like a Teams access yet? If you'll go ahead, go to the Student Senate website, it's going to be the main homepage there. And if you go to join Microsoft Team, which is just a little bit of a scroll down, I can go ahead and like allow you into the Teams here for our next votes here. All right. And how many senators was that we added? 4 more. Okay. All right, so our new quorum number is now going to be 31 for the remainder of the meeting. And with that, we will go ahead and move on to the next item on our agenda, which is our officer report from the treasurer, Turner Seals.
All right, let's be nice and quick. So there's over 70,000 left in the unallocated account. So what we spend here, there is around 270,000 in the reserve. And another topic I wanted to bring up was the sustainability fund. So that is a fund that is used for environmental projects around campus that are really initiated by students. So there's around $77,000 in that fund. Some recent transfers we've made to other departments are $5,000 to fund an architecture project, Solar House. I think I brought that up in here for some of you if you guys remember that. 10,000 is going to be used to finally put up the solar panels. I don't know if many people in here know about the solar panels project, but basically we had solar panels up on a building. They had to be taken down for construction, and now they sit in like a storage room. And they've sat there for like 5 years. So we're finally going to get them back up, which will be cool. The electricity will just go back into our big grid here. So, but yeah, if you have any ideas for projects or anything, or if I can help in any way, email me. And pizza's finally here, so don't go too crazy.
Any questions for Turner? All right, thank you very much, Turner. All right, and do I see a motion for a 5-minute recess so folks can get pizza? I see one from Camden. I see a second from Austin. Huh? You have to get it out. Oh, yeah, then we can go ahead and do it after. Will you withdraw that, Camden, then? Perfect. All right, then we will go ahead and do our next item on the agenda, which is our Government Relations Director, Danae Estabine. And yours is like the last one, the flyer that you sent me.
What?
The flyer that you sent me
It's
is like
on
the
there.
last one.
Last one.
Yeah, last one here, the PDF.
Can you scroll down to it?
Huh? Well, no, it's the PDF right next to the Sledge calendar.
Oh,
Yes. All right, and whenever you're ready.
Okay, so currently I'm planning this event called Holidays in Higher Ed. And basically, this is just an opportunity for students who are interested in law, government, politics, administration to be able to connect with KU admin, as well as our state and federal representatives, and just some other people who are involved in these careers. And so this event is only offered to a select group of students, and Student Senate being one of them. So I think that it'd be great if all of you took this opportunity to be able to connect with people in these careers, if that's something that you're interested in. So I just wanted to give you all the save the date. And then at our next assembly, or we'll just email out the flyer next week that has more details on it. But it's Thursday, December 1st at the Oriad from 6 to 8 p.m. We'll be serving dinner with water, dessert, and a cash bar. So it should be fun and a good time. So just save that date.
All right, thank you, Danae. Any questions? All right, thank you very much. All right, and now do I see a motion from Sadie for a 5-minute recess or 10 minutes? How long do you think we'll need? All righty, perfect. All right, and do I see a second for that? Second from Camden. All right, no objection. We are in recess for 5 minutes. Please return at 7:35 p.m. Oh, and I'll also offer if any of our new senators need assistance with Teams and like how to work it for these meetings, feel free to come up to the chair here so we can teach you how that works. All right, everyone, it is 7:36, so if we can go ahead and start making it back to our seats, we're about to go ahead and call back into session. Okay, and with that, we are going to go ahead and go back into session here. The first item here and back on our new agenda is the consent agenda. Do I see a motion to pass that consent agenda or any objections to it? All right, I see a motion from Holly. Do I see a second? Second from Abdullah. All right, and is there anyone who opposes this motion? All right, seeing none, we will go ahead and move towards a vote on the consent agenda. And if you can go ahead and get that poll generated. And a reminder, if you haven't reviewed the legislation for this, it's a bill to fund the New Music Guild, a bill to fund the Vietnamese Student Association, and a bill to fund the Colombian Student Association at KU. Turner? VSA? Oh, so you would like to seek an objection. Do you want to explain that to the room so they know sort of what's going on there?
Turner and I screwed up.
Can we get, yeah, a catch box back there? Thank you, Camden. Oh.
All right, is this on? You guys hear me?
Yeah,
Okay, basically the VSA wanted $20 to buy Google Drive storage. Problem is with that is that we have Microsoft Teams for free. So it became aware to me that we're not allowed to buy Google Drive storage. So I told them that and they no longer want their funding. So, yep.
all right. So do we have a voting member who will object to this item on the consent agenda? All right, I see a Camden. And since one person has objected to the consent agenda, then we will go ahead and move the Vietnamese Student Association to our regular agenda. All right,
Cool.
so now can I see a motion to pass the consent agenda with the two pieces? All right, I see one from Alex and then I'll see one from Holly and then I'll see the second from Alex there. And anyone who opposes moving to a vote now on the new consent agenda? All right, then if you can go ahead and create that poll now. All right, and you should see that hit the chat. Do you agree with the consent agenda? Yes, if you do, no, if you do not, and abstain to stay out of the discussion. And a reminder that now our quorum is 31 for votes. All right, is there anyone who has not yet voted on this matter that would wish to do so? Going once, going twice. All right, we will go ahead and close this poll here. And with a vote of 35 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and 0 abstentions, this motion passes unanimously. All right. And with that, we will now move on to the next item on our agenda, Bill 2023-35 to fund the Vietnamese Student Association. Do I see a motion to remove that? All right, I see a motion from Camden. Do I see a second? See a second from Nicole. Is there anyone who objects to removing this item from our agenda? Going once, going twice. The item is removed. All right, and so now we will go on to the next item on our agenda, which is Senate Bill 2023-33, a bill to fund the Jayhawk Aero design. And who's going to be speaking on behalf of that organization tonight? Oh, perfect. Hello. Yes, it would. And then how much time do you need for your presentation? 5 minutes. All right, perfect. Oh, I had not seen that here. Did you email it to me or another member of the exec staff?
Was it the student body vice president email?
I think so. It's one that you sent me.
Yeah, that's the.
I don't have anything weird.
Did you get it last night?
Let me check.
I can do it without a presentation too.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything in my email, so it might have to be. Yeah, we can pull the legislation up first and I can go ahead and get that done.
Do you have your laptop?
Doing. All right. You're totally fine. So sorry we couldn't get the presentation up there.
Is there any way I could share it with you or is that?
Yeah, if you go ahead and just like email me like the PDF of it, then that would work. And then if I could just check the email real quick so we can make sure it gets. All right, so it's SBVP, so.
No, I didn't. Sorry.
Also not works.
Yep.
Thank you so much. Sorry about that delay.
Oh, so sorry.
I'd like to say thank you everyone for having me back. I had a lot of fun last week and definitely after hearing some questions, thought of some this presentation would be the best way to kind of inform everyone else of our goals, our hopes with Jayhawk Aero Design. We are an engineering community that comes together to compete at global competitions every year by designing aircrafts and manufacturing them to compete against some of the top universities around the world. Last year, we placed 6th, and we are having the main goal of placing top 3. We think that this will help with university recruitment, with funding, with donations, and also as well as engagement and practicing of our skills outside of the classroom. The cool thing about Jayhawk Aero Design is even though it says aero, we are not just aero. We work on almost any engineering project that you can think of, and we like to work with people who are outside the engineering school who also have an interest in like what we learn, but not spending 4 or 5 years learning it. So our goals first are to allow students to come together, create innovative products and enhance learning outside the classroom. The cool thing about KU that I learned is that anything that we design or make, well, as undergraduates, is our property. So, it's really awesome that we have the ability and the resources to create and work magic into our ideas and then we get all the credit and the support that we need. Again, with the engineering aspect, we like to encourage all of our students to build skills that they would otherwise not have the ability to enhance in the classroom as we're learning curriculum, but actually put in an application, put it on a resume, get it for, job insight. And again, that's huge for people who also aren't engineering, who want a career maybe in an engineering firm. We have writing, we have speaking, working with businesses, all of that. Our main goal in terms of the competition this year, which is in Arizona in spring, is place top 3. Last year we got 6th. These are the teams that beat us. As you can see, they are teams that are using this project and this competition as capstone projects, as requirements for graduation. We do not. We are a club organization. We're just filled with people who are passionate about what we do. So I think it's really cool. You can see some of the best universities, and we're right up there with them. This year's design, more specifically, is this aircraft. The mission plans that we were given is that it has to be a small aircraft that could fit in the size of a suitcase once taken apart and fully reassembled, because it's for military application. Our goal this year is to create 5 to 6 prototypes, incorporate more high-tech equipment, use carbon fiber rather than foam. This is something we've had a really hard time moving past, because manufacturing an aircraft is not cheap, but we're really resourceful, and foam works excellent. The teams that are beating us in the past are spending anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000 to create their aircrafts. Between all of our expenses, food, training, safety, manufacturing, and travel last year, we spent less than $8,000. So our place to how much money that we're spending ratio is the lowest, but place the highest. And then train more pilots. But I think to extend on to that is be more welcoming. What we like to do is, like I said, become a place for all students. So what's really cool about KU is if you open Google Earth, it comes out of KU's campus. That's because a KU student designed and made Google Earth. Pokemon Go has a lot of checkpoints because that was made by a student on campus. Every Formula One race car that races, drives the tires, a student gets credit for those because he designed those on campus. Every knee that gets implanted as a knee replacement is tested at the University of Kansas. And Florida at Disney World, all the palm trees that were tested for hurricane conditions were tested on campus. So they withstood the past 2 hurricanes that just hit this year. So what we do extends way more than just airplanes. And so I think it's really cool that we can get people from the HSES to design, all majors really. We're incorporating a whole bunch of technology into our world. So we kind of want to get everyone together to work on products and designs. So very quickly, we've raised a little bit more than $17,500 with the goal of getting to about $50,000. We have a lot of efforts of trying to get that company outreach because we are now placing higher. The Jayhawk Motorsports is a capstone project by the KU Mechanical Engineering students, and we're trying to partner with the same companies that work with them to make these top placing vehicles, cars in particular, Formula One, to make our aircrafts. Student Senate, we proposed for the bill $23,750, knowing that the maximum that could be approved is $12,375. And I wanted to go a little bit more into the breakdown of that right here. So a lot of people were asking last time about where we would use that funding. And the big thing that I highlighted is in the dream world, with all of our funding, how we would spend it. And then I highlighted the parts that were most important to us. For us, it's training, storage, safety, and tools. All these would be permanent things. So it's not something that we would get every year, but something that we would invest in for the community. Sorry.
5-minute time extension from Camden. Do I see a second? All right, I see a second back here. All right, and anyone who objects to that time extension? Seeing none, we will go ahead.
Awesome, thank you. So yeah, like I said, we would like to use it for these permanent features such as printers, spaces, technology that would be used, and all sorts of projects that will cut down in long-term costs, such as having to go to third-party vendors to create our products, but would allow all students, regardless of your background, regardless of your major, to be able to come and use this design space. And that's where I highlighted where everything with an asterisk that you'll see up there is something that we would like to invest these funds in and rely more on our department and university, engineering funds and sponsorships to get us the rest, for this project specifically that we're going to be completing in the spring. And then that was kind of it that I had, except for questions.
And get the mic working here. All right, any questions? I see one from Holly. Any others in the room as well? All right, I see
guess-
one from Chris as well. Holly, you can go first.
Thank you. My question is currently, how many members do you have in your group? Just because this is one of the largest amounts of money I've seen requested in Student Senate. So like, I guess in my mind, I just wanted to know like how many students this would actually like benefit.
Right. So currently we meet twice a week as a group. We have in leadership 16 individuals, and to each meeting we're getting about 50 or more students with a different array of students coming in every time, just because of like schedules, tests, everything like that. So it's an all hands on deck project, but continuously around the year we have at least 50 students specifically working on it, and then people walking in helping, wanting to learn how to fly. Like I said, we do some recreational things as well, or maybe wanting to learn some other skills and that we would otherwise get briefly taught in the classroom. So like if you were working on a project in the design school and wanted to 3D print something, we were thinking that maybe you could come to us and do that as well. And that's why we were talking about that expansion, so that we could not only just have more of an engineering focus, but also having that focus on helping expand the resources to all students. A lot of universities, especially the ones listed above, have design spaces that are available to all students. And with these permanent additions that we would use this funding for, it would be open and available to all students.
Thank you.
All right, Chris. And can we get the cash box thrown here? So close.
Could you please describe some of the outside projects you've helped with?
Yeah, so I think like I was brainstorming some ideas today. Econ majors every day are in the professional world using more programming skills, but maybe don't have a programming background. The University of Kansas does not have programs like a minor in computer science, but a lot of us have the skills and would like to teach those skills as well. And you know, it'd be a great way for us to learn and expand our skills, but also teach people outside business, econ, all of that to do those programming skills when it comes to recreational flying, rocketry, stuff like that. But then another thing I thought of today is like, I just recently had a surgery and was dependent on a lot of orthopedic or occupational and physical therapy. The tools that they use are really unique, and a lot of students have great ideas of what they think would help them more in their careers. So again, it's like creating those products and innovations. And then another thing I was thinking just of education majors, whether it be special education, elementary education, or high school, that there might be new ideas for products that help and enhance education across all boards. And so like those are some projects that I've thought about a little bit, and how what we do could be worked on by all students.
Thank you.
Of course. And then I guess like in terms of the non-technical aspects too, is just like we're writing reports, we're communicating with businesses, everything like that. So having those skills and relationships as well.
Any other questions? Yes, you can give a point of information, Camden. And I'll go ahead and pause the question time.
So this is a lot of money. It's $22,000. I just wanted to give the context of where the unallocated account is at. Every year, we budget roughly $80,000 to be spent on Wednesday night funding. So essentially what we're doing tonight. So in an ideal world, we'd spend roughly half of that each semester. As of right now, we have about $75,000, Turner, you can check me on that, left in the unallocated. So we have more than enough money. We've been pretty fiscally responsible this year, and this is one of those instances where I think we really have the power to whip out the checkbook and make a big difference on campus. Just my 2 cents.
All right, thank you. And in terms, Camden, if you could extend your point of information in terms of like financial rules, this meets sort of like all of Student Senate's like checks in regards to how we spend this unallocated funding, right?
Yes, absolutely. The food component was fixed with the amendment that I believe we passed last cycle. So we're all good on the funding side here.
All right, perfect. Motion from Holly. All right, and I see a second from Farzad. All right, is there anyone who objects to voting? Oh, do you object? All right, anyone who would like to withdraw that motion, or are we still going to continue for a vote? Could you get a cash box right from Abdullah there? Perfect, thank you.
This got mentioned in Finance Council last week. And I'm pretty sure it was supposed to be changed for tonight. But essentially it was supposed to add a consumables and a non-consumables amount. Yeah, it's the last slide on here. But it's, I don't know if we didn't vote on it in finance, but it got brought up that that would be put in the bill. And so I'm pretty sure it's a friendly because of what we had already, what they have already talked about with funding. But it's just simply to add it to the bill. Because right now the bill just says.
And what's the context of like the consumables amendment there?
So it's simply to separate the amount they're spending on parts, all of that stuff, and food.
Oh, so adding more to how the money is being split out.
Yeah, just as a protection to make sure they don't spend $23,000 on food.
Yeah.
That is nothing more than an accounting trick because the actual itemized bill presented to Turner that this is passed with the understanding of, you know, has all the parts and everything listed on it, the precise uses of where the money is going to go to. So amending the bill to include like categorizations of what everything entails is nothing more than an accounting trick. And I personally think it's unnecessary. This isn't a speech, but that's just the point of information. So the bill or the proposed spending list that will go through the treasurer's office already includes all that information.
Yeah, and Turner, you can also confirm you have this information as it's going to sort of be spent out, correct?
Yeah, we have an understanding. I have the budget of everything that's going on. Anthony like brings up a good point about making sure everyone knows like the consumable versus like the non-consumable part. But I think if we all understand, like we see the slide, 14,000-ish is a one-time. I think that's a broad enough understanding, and I don't think it necessarily needs to be encoded in the bill, honestly.
I didn't rescind my vote.
Oh, you didn't rescind it there? All right. Do you have something else to say before we move into a motion?
30 seconds. It's simply for transparency to our constituents, because when they pull up the legislation tracker, they don't get access to that list. So we know, we've seen this presentation, and it's great. I think the money's going to a great place. But simply for transparency to the people who just pull up the legislation tracker and they see a large amount. And so
Well, it will be transparent if anyone makes a request for any of like the specifics related to like the legislation, because that would be public record.
I do think Anthony makes a great point, though. Would it be possible to friendly just the itemized list provided by Jayhawk Arrow and put that in this past legislation?
Yeah, that'd be great.
You just attach it on separate pages.
It's a very long list. I think that's what he's pointing at.
Well, that's a friendly, that's.
And then fixes and agreement. I'm like, compromise it like.
All right, so do I see a motion to amend the bill to include the totality of the itemized list? All right, motion from Holly and then second from Abdullah there. All right, is there anyone who objects to adding the fully itemized list to the bill? All right. Seeing none, we will go ahead and move forward with a vote. Do I see a motion to vote on this legislation? All right, I see a motion from Angela. I see a second from Kevin. All right, and do we have anyone who objects to moving towards this vote now? All right, seeing none, we will go ahead and move to a vote. Thank you very much for presenting for us. What? No, you're totally fine. All right, thank you very much. Twenty 2023-33. All right, and you'll see that in the Students Assembly channel now. Do you agree with Senate Bill 2023-33? Yes, no, or abstain? And we'll go ahead and let that legislation run for about a minute and a half here. Brilliant. Anyone who has to vote on this matter that wishes to do so? All right, seeing no objections, I will now move to close this vote. Oh, I saw one just roll in. All right, we'll allow this to run for 15 more seconds, but then we'll definitely look to close the vote here. Seeing no change, is there anyone who objects to closing out the poll? All right, seeing none, this poll is closed. And with a vote of 35 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and 0 abstentions, this motion passes unanimously. Design. All right, thank you very much. And we will now move on to the next item on our agenda here, Senate Bill 23-29, a bill to fund the KU period program. And that will be Roswell Nicole. Oh, yes. All right, and about how much time do you think y'all will need?
Just like 5 minutes, yeah.
Brilliant.
Okay. Is this on? Yeah, okay. So we presented this last week in finance. It's a bill to fund the KU period program. A little backdrop on the period program was started in to the full extent this year. It's completely ran out of an endowment fund. It is basically it's responsible for putting all of the free tampons and pads in the women's restrooms, and gender neutral bathrooms on campus, as well as providing free menstrual products to the trans closet and campus cupboard on campus. The campus cupboard provides these products for free for students in financial hardship, and the trans closet provides these products in a safe environment for those students who need access to them. And so basically this is just something that Rosabelle and I came up with in order to support this program, because once their funding runs out, it's gone. And all of this has been completely free to students. And the associate director of the HERO, which is health.
The Health and Education Resource Office.
Yeah, so her name's Jenny McKee, and she is the one who's in charge of all this. She has all of the products in her office. She's the one who's stocking them and is figuring out where on campus these need to go. And she gave us a list of what her supplier breakdown was. And so this is just what we came up with in order to just provide her a little more cushion for stocking the restrooms for the rest of this year. Her typical budget is about $11,000 for an entire school year. So this is just a drop in the bucket. But it was just something that we felt that we could contribute to the program, as well as the campus cupboard and trans closet.
Do we have any questions on the legislation? I see one from Holly. Any others? And then one from Lena. Oh, Dr. Durham has a point of information here.
I just wanted to clarify that the period program has been in place for about 3.5 years. And it is in terms of placing the products are Jenny McKee and HERO provides the products, but our maintenance staff, facility staff, custodial staff make sure that they're all supplied. And the intention is to expand to a couple of additional locations.
Yeah, when I said this is our first or their first year in full swing of the program, began in 2020. Was that the first 2019?
Yeah, it was 2019,
okay.
I believe.
And then like COVID happened, and then they were on like kind of like a pilot program with some restrooms. And so this is the first year that that Jenny had told us they were in like full like.
And just an interesting point of information, this was an initial student senate initiative. I don't remember who the president was in 2019. Zoya, yes, yeah.
All right, thank you very much for that point of information, Dr. Durham. And then Lena, you had a question. Could we get a catch box?
So where will these, the products that you've listed, where will they be going? Is it to KU period program in general or specifically to the trans closet and campus covered?
So the tampons, pads, and at the bottom, the 5-period product dispensers, those go directly, all of this stuff goes to Jenny, who decides where everything goes. Those will go to the period program. The cups and reusable pads, those go to the trans closet and campus covered. But Jenny also is in charge of placing those there.
Can I ask a follow-up?
I see a motion on the floor back here from Holly. Yeah, you can go ahead. I don't think anyone else is questioning.
So how will you make sure that these resources are allocated in a fair way, just given that there's more traction on the campus covered as opposed to, I'd assume, the trans closet. The campus covered gets about 600 visits in a month. And so how are you going to allocate the products to make sure that the people that are using the campus covered, which is used more frequently, get access to what they need?
Yeah, that's a great question. So like I said, Jenny McKee is the one who is in charge of stocking these products, and she's even spent some of her own money stocking the products for both the campus covered and
Should I send by a minute?
Oh, well, it's been properly moved. You also voted for a time extension, Abdullah? Just a minute?
Yeah, she was mid-sentence.
All right. And do you object to that then, Holly? Or? Yes, but do you object?
I object.
Okay.
I want to let her finish her thought. Can I object to the objection?
Well, moving to a vote either way on the time extension at that point. So.
Can I finish my thought real
Yeah,
quick? Because I feel like this is just a good point of
Yeah,
information.
you can finish out the thought just briefly. So we
Um,
don't get into time there.
Yeah, sorry. I know it's late, guys. But Jenny just she's in charge of what products go where in terms of the campus cupboard and trans closet. And like I said, she's been using some of her own money to supply those. This is not necessarily exactly how the money, like this is what we came up with and said that this is how we can assist you. And so based on what she feels she needs for the program, she's going to spend the money that way. And in order to provide the closet, if the closet needs more or the campus cupboard needs more pads or cups, she'll do that, or put the money towards new dispensers and other restrooms. So whatever she feels is best.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. And now do I see a motion?
Yes.
All right, motion to vote from Holly, and then I see a second from Kevin. And yes, Abdullah. All right. And anyone who objects now to moving to a vote on this legislation? All right, seeing none, we will go ahead and drop that poll in the channel. You all can go ahead and step down. Thank you very much. Oh, yes. Yeah. As Camden mentioned there, it does require a 2/3 majority to pass since this is a reserve bill allocation. No, it's 29. 2023-29. All right. That poll has now been posted in the channel. Do you agree with Senate Bill 23-29? Yes, if you agree with this legislation. No, if you do not, and abstain to stay out of the discussion.
Alessia. Never mind, sorry. That someone was wonky on the track, I realized that I was the wonky one. Misreading.
All right, is there anyone else who would like to vote on this matter that has not yet done so? Seeing none, we can go ahead and close out this vote here. And with a vote of 35 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and 0 abstentions, this motion clearly passes. Oh, we're sorry, 36. Oh, well, either way, unanimous passage. All right, and so now we will go to the next item on our agenda, which is Senate Bill 23-32, a bill to amend Student Senate's Constitution, Title III, Article 1, Section 4, to bring Section 4 in line with the Constitution. And that'll be presented by Nathaniel. And how long do you need?
I don't know. Give me 5 minutes. It probably will be short anyway.
Okay,
Where is it?
whenever you're ready, and it's number 32, so.
Is it not open? Am I? Oh, it's not. Okay. Where's the thing?
If you just get back to the lunch.
I mean, I can just open it on the agenda. Okay. So this one is just a pretty simple bill. We passed this last assembly. Yeah, we passed this last assembly, but because we moved a little fast, we didn't do some friendly amendments that I wanted to do to bring this in line with the current constitution, because this was directly ripped from the SSRR. So basically for this, we're just going to move it to the correct title and section, and then just change massive amounts of terms that are no longer in existence. And then in the original meeting in Rice Council, when we passed it, the vice chair, Abdul wanted to add an amendment just in the event that the chair was called up for disciplinary procedures. So I put that in as well. So basically now we have it that if the chair is called up for any of these disciplinary procedures, they'll have to vacate their chair position, and the vice chair will have to take that position until those procedures are finished. And then, yeah, that's about it.
Right, and do I see any questions, or I see a motion from Kevin? All right, and do I see a second to vote on this legislation? All right, second from Lena. Is there anyone who objects to moving to a vote on this matter? Seeing none, all right, we will go ahead and move to a vote on this legislation. You may go step down. How are your minutes, Sam? Wow.
All right, I'm doing a bad job.
All right, so that poll has gone ahead and gone into the chat. Do you agree with Senate Bill 23-32? Yes, if you'd like to approve this ledge, no, if you do not, and abstain to stay out of the discussion. A reminder that this requires a 2/3 majority to pass.
My bad. Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone in here that has not yet been able to vote on this matter that wishes to do so? All right. Seeing no objections, I'll go ahead and close this vote. And with a vote of 29 in the affirmative, 2 in the negative, and 2 abstentions, this motion clearly passes. All right, and now we'll move on to our last piece of legislation for the night, Senate Bill 23-30, a bill to amend the Senate Fee Review Committee. Love the energy back there. All right, and how much time will we all need? 5, perfect. Whenever you're ready.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
It's on the agenda as well, if you just want to click on the link.
Thanks, Alessia. Okay. I can do the first part. You can do finance. Okay, so I'll go cover this first part here. Okay, sorry. I was double checking something. So basically what this is going through is changing a couple things within the fee review committee. And so the first thing is we were having trouble getting finance representatives who were graduate students, because if you haven't noticed, we're having some problems with graduate student engagement within councils especially. And so having them appointed directly from the council was proving to be difficult. In the past couple of years, they've been appointed from like at large, basically, like just graduate students in general, and they'd be appointed as like finance reps, even though they weren't in finance. So we basically just moved that down to be 2 at large students, graduate students, to be appointed by the graduate student body president with a 2/3 vote of the students assembly, which we have to, they'll be voted on right after this, should this pass, because we'll just sign it immediately thereafter. And so that's why that like kind of shifted down there, and it maintains the ratio. And then I edited this, but it isn't on there, which we'll need to add.
What?
I edited this in Rise last week, and I thought it would just be up there, but it's not. But it's okay. I'll add it if we can edit it. But also we removed 2 right here. It should be, and I have the doc. It's in the original one that I emailed Sam. If you have it up there, if you can re-upload that, if you can push that doc onto the Teams, the one that I sent you, the link from whenever I initially submitted this to you. Does that make sense? Okay. If you can put that in the Teams, that has the language in it that we struck, but it's just because it was an error whenever we were writing, we actually deleted it instead of striking through, and then we caught it last week in rights. But we also removed the 2 appointed fee review voting members from the Office of Multicultural Affairs. The rationale behind it is because they are funded via the fee. And so it's just kind of a direct conflict of interest to have 2 members appointed by an office that is represented or being voted upon in the fee. And it's the only fee entity that had that appointment. And so we maintained the ratios. And then also in between last Wednesday and this Wednesday, we did speak, or we communicated to Dr. Kevin Joseph. He works with Senate quite a bit. He's one of our advisors for social justice and for the DEI fund. And he also used to work closely with the OMA, and now he's with the Office of DEAB. And we kind of like floated it past him as well. And he gave his approval and verification that was okay with him, that he understood the rationale and didn't see a problem with it there, just so you're all aware of that as well. So those are the principal changes here. And then I think Sam's gonna get that and add it to the Teams, and I'll double check that while it's from whenever I initially gave it to you. I'll help you find it here. I'll pass it to Camden.
Wonderful. So for those of you that were around last year, you might remember that the fee review process was a disaster. I'd use a different word that starts with cluster and ends with one that I can't say here. But the point being is that fee review has a tendency of being a drawn out, arduous process for all of those involved. And so the point of this was to streamline the process and really vest the decision-making capability within the individuals who have gone through the hearings and have, the best understanding of what exactly changes in the fee might entail. So essentially, let me get the mouse here. What we did is, instead of allowing each successive layer of councils, and so I should add that the way this works is that the fee review committee, which I chair, will make a recommendation, and then that will go through finance and then through full Senate. So previously, each layer had been able to make line by line changes, right? So Finance Council was able to make changes, and then full Senate was able to make changes to the point where the bill that fee review passed was essentially unrecognizable from, the one that ended up getting enacted by full Senate. And so the goal here was multifaceted. First, to ensure the efficiency of the process. So Finance and full Senate are still retaining full control over the process, right? They get the ultimate say whether or not this fee package gets passed. They can say no and send it back to the fee review council with recommendations. However, it's the fee review council or the fee review committee, my bad, that must make the changes in line with those recommendations. So Finance Council or full Senate can't make the changes themselves, if that makes sense. The reason that the second important change here is that should the date, I forget which the deadline is, in April, if by the end of April we don't have a passed fee package yet, traditionally full Senate has been the body that gets to start from scratch and make a fee package however they see fit. However, this kind of creates a perverse incentive because full Senate, in a lot of ways, in order to protect their own influence over the fee package, can stall, can push the negotiation back as long as possible in order to ensure that they have full control over the process. So what we've done in this is say that if the fee package has not passed full Senate by a certain date, it's actually the fee review committee that gets the final say in making the determination. Essentially meaning that everybody in this process will have an incentive to get it done as quickly and as efficiently as possible. And this isn't just for our convenience, this is also to the benefit of the entire university. The fee managers that are having to make financial budgeting decision, the entire year out in April, if they don't know how much money they're going to have, obviously it's extremely difficult for them, to make a decision that is in the best interests of their own department and therefore the student body.
Do we have a motion to extend speaker time? Oh, or
no, not really, but I think questions. So let's just do 5 minutes, if that's okay.
Not that this is huge, sorry.
Yeah.
sorry, we're still trying to get the bill together here, so. Yeah, so motion to extend by 5 minutes, right? And then second from Nicole. All right, anyone who objects to that time extension by 5 minutes? All right, seeing none, Camden, you can go ahead and continue.
Yeah, I wanted to add that the summer after my freshman year, so it would have been the summer of 2021, we passed this giant fee package and it passed full Senate, and the Board of Regents said no. They said we weren't able to raise the fee. And so the full Senate group had an emergency session. It was 6 hours on Zoom. It was horrible, right? And created a new fee package from scratch. And, while that had its merits, the sort of goal with this is to ensure that the individuals who sit through the fee review process, Holly and Sadie can both attest, it is a long one. There's a lot that gets thrown at you, who've seen the financial projections, who've met with the fee managers, are the ones with the most influence over the process, while also not excluding those whose voices, like you all's, are just as important, even if they haven't been as close to the nexus of the decisions being made behind closed doors, if that makes sense. Is that all you think?
Yeah, I feel like that's the bulk of it.
Okay. Questions?
Here's that strike, by the way. We just added it there. But it was just that and then struck.
All right, so we have 4 more minutes. Does anyone have any questions for our authors here? Or do I see a motion? Motion to vote from Holly, and then I see a second back here. Was that from you, Farzad? Oh, perfect. You had a question? All right, and then you had a second, Kevin, for the motion? All right. And is there anyone who objects, knowing that there's questions on the floor? All right, seeing none, we will go ahead and move towards a vote on this legislation. Of course. Oh, and Sadie. The poll is now up. Do you agree with Senate Bill 23-30? Yes, if you'd like to pass this legislation. No, if you do not, and abstain to stay out of the discussion. Reminder, since this is an amendment, that this will require a 2/3 majority to pass.
We still need one more vote, so anybody who hasn't voted, please vote. It's 32. All right, yeah, I'll close the poll.
Great, by motion of vote 32-0, this passes. So.
Great. So now we're gonna move to the final item on our agenda. Confirm graduate representatives to fee review 2. Since SP 2023-030 passes, Holly, I'll give you the floor. Yep, that is true. Okay, can I get a motion for, where's Sadie? Where's Sadie?
No, Angela's going to get saved.
All right, well, can I get a motion for recess for like 2 minutes then? All right, motion by Camden, can I get a second? Second from Austin, any objection? No objection found. All right, 2 minutes recess.
Did you go to the production? I was like, where did the list go? Yeah, they're in my head.
All right, sorry, everyone. We're working to get the legislation here so that Sadie can make sure it gets signed, and then we can do the last item on our agenda of confirming the graduate representatives that were added from this legislation. All right, here we go.
Hey, yay, sign it, Sadie.
And yeah, last page.
Okay, it's whatever. I've been practicing.
Brilliant. All right, thank you very much, Sadie. This legislation is now enacted.
Yay.
All right, and yeah, that's a happy event, I would say. All right, and Holly, do you have your 2 graduate representatives?
Yeah, Banda Al Mohammadi
All
and Samantha Gali.
All right, and are either of them here tonight or?
No, because Banda's wife just had a baby. Samantha's gonna be a senator next semester, but she has class on next.
Perfect. All right, is there anyone who motions to acclimate these 2 representatives? Or rather confirm, I see a motion from Anthony. Do I see a second? I see a second from Lena. All right, is there anyone who objects to the acclamation of these 2 fee representatives as is stated in this legislation? Going once, going twice. All right. Those representatives are officially approved by the assembly. All right. Do we have any announcements? I'll just make this one again since, want to make sure it's known. Legislative deadline is going to be the 25th of November at 5 p.m. So make sure you submit any legislation that you have for cycle 7 by Friday of next week. And do I see a motion to adjourn? All right, I'm gonna get a motion from Angela, second from Abdullah. Anyone who objects? Thought not. All right, we are adjourned.